Welcome back, Shalligators. Today, oh boy, are we tackling a sticky, controversial story. NAYA Rivera's ex, Ryan Dorsey, is shacking up with her little sister. Okay. And this isn't a rumor. This is very true. And Nickayla, NAYA's 25-year-old little sister, has issued a statement. We're going to unpack it. Are there red flags in there? Is what's going on between NAYA, may God rest her soul, NAYA's ex and her sister, like, is it healthy? Is it really fucked up? We're not going to pass too much judgment. This is not a video being judgy for once. But we are also going to explore what you should do if you're in a similar situation. Now I know, God willing, you will not be in this situation. But we've all been in situations that are kind of shades of this, where your ex has taken up with someone very, very close to you, whether it's a sibling, whether it's a best friend, whether it's a coworker. How do we deal with this? Should we just let it go? Should we confront these people? Is it healthy? Is it twisted? What does it say about their relationship to us? We're going to break it all down. But before we do, just want to remind you guys to follow me on Instagram. This is where you guys suggested this topic. I put it out there for you, and you had some very, very different and strong opinions about this. So we're going to share some of those. Also, if you would like a video shout out, head on over to Cameo. I'm answering questions there. If you need some love advice, if you want a birthday shout out for a friend, a pep talk for yourself, any little thing like that, head on over. So let's talk about Ryan and Nickayla. Okay, so this, this is some shit. So here's a summation of what's going on. Obviously, we know that NAYA tragically, and just, so awful, drowned in a lake in California. Her body was recovered July 13th. Less than 3 months later, on September 6th, the Daily Mail caught Nickayla, who is NAYA's 25-year-old model sister, was seen helping Ryan begin moving his belongings from his home in North Hills in LA's San Fernando Valley into their, plural, their joint new $5,000 a month rental house. This house is $5,000 a month. It's one story. Like, what the fuck? Are you kidding? In the valley? Okay, whatever. So Nickayla says she's not concerned with the way things look, and she's doing this to help raise her nephew, NAYA and Ryan's son, Josie, who's 5 years old. So let's read her statement. She said, "In the darkest times of my life, the only thing that is important is my friends and family." Things are important, but that's okay. "Showing up for my nephew, even though I can't show up for myself. I'm not concerned with the way things look because no one can see each agonizing moment we all endure. What matters most, I've learned, is to show compassion, not judge others, and never take a moment of life for granted. I hope you all can do the same." Okay. I can't imagine what they're going through. I can't imagine the grief, and I thank God that I can't imagine it, and you should thank God that you can't imagine it either, because by the grace of God, there go all of us. Grief is such a complex thing. It's not linear. It's not predictable. I kind of compare grief to a stalker. It's something that waits in the shadows for you, and it preys on you when you're not looking, when you're tired, when you're distracted. Here it is. When there is an opening in your life that maybe you're okay and maybe you just kind of like got today figured out, there's something that happens and it comes crashing in. And grief is not just like I said, it's not linear. Some days you're fine and other days you cannot move. You are absolutely paralyzed by it. I've lost a parent. I've been divorced. Like, I've gone through some things. I haven't gone through something as serious as what Ryan and Nickayla are going through. So I'm not going to judge how they're dealing with it. I'm not. And we have seen these kinds of situations play out before. We've seen it with Hunter Biden marrying his dead brother Beau's widow. We have seen it with Stevie Nicks. Wait, Stevie Nicks? What are you talking about? Stevie Nicks, our patron saint, the white witch, the queen of scarves? Yes. So in 1981, Stevie Nicks' best friend Robin was diagnosed with leukemia. And she also got pregnant. And she died a few days after her son Matthew was born. And Stevie, in this like rage fit of grief, convinced Robin's husband, Kim, don't trust a man with a woman's name, just can we all agree on that, to marry her. Because she's like, I want to be able to raise Matthew in the way that Robin would want. And she just, she calls the decision now completely insane, but like you kind of get it. When you look at it through the lens of grief, you're like, yeah, you want to keep a hold of this thing that has been ripped away from you in any way that you can. You want to hold on to the scraps that are left. And sometimes those scraps are things, and sometimes they're people, and sometimes they're relationships. Haven't we all been dumped by a guy or had a relationship go south, and we've stayed in touch with his friends to kind of hear how he's doing and check in on him and just maybe hear some of the same jokes or sort of inhabit that past just for a few minutes, even if it's just they come up in your newsfeed and then you're like, okay, like I remember when we would all go do this together and we would all go have dinner here, we would all go bowling. Like for just a moment, I'm back there. I'm back to the place I desperately miss and want to be. With Stevie Nicks, I mean, she really took it to the nth degree. She married this dude, and she had said that she could feel her best friend Robin's presence in Matthew's nursery. And she said one day she walked into the nursery and she couldn't feel her presence anymore. And I believe Stevie Nicks when she talks about presence. She is a witch. Takes one to know one. I love you, girl. And I mean that in like a very affectionate, wonderful way. Not like, no. She's a white witch. Oh, powerful woman. And she said when she realized she couldn't feel Robin's presence anymore, that's when it was time to leave the marriage. Now things were also going like horribly. She said she realized she didn't really know Kim at all. And her family and friends were like, what the fuck are you doing? Like they wouldn't come to the wedding. People were like, this is insane. There's even a Golden Girls episode about this. Do you remember when Blanche's dead husband, Jamie, comes to town and she is confusing. She's mixing up her feelings for George, her dead husband, for Jamie. And she's like, oh, George, Jamie, what's the difference? He's like, there is a difference, Blanche. And she had convinced herself she was in love with Jamie, but it was because of what he brought back to her. The memories that he sparked back to life, how he looked like George. Yes, I get a lot of life lessons for the Golden Girls, and you know that you do too. So on one hand, I can of course understand how this happens. You can understand like through a grieving process how this happens. But on the other hand, it's fucking weird. It's fucked up and weird. One of my good friends, her mother passed away from breast cancer a few years ago, and her dad married her mom's best friend. And fucking Patricia. And my friend was like, I'd always heard the saying, beware of who brings the first casserole after the funeral. That's the friend who is always scheming after your man. And I think that gets to the heart of this, is it's not like, Naya's little sister has kind of slid into this dynamic with Ryan. It's a question of, how long were you planning this? And there's some people who say that, they planned, like, that they murdered her. This is a conspiracy theory going around. I have no idea. But I've heard that, like, her family is hiring detectives. This could be a Dateline special, right? This could be some really fucked up and toxic Dateline special. But let's say that it's not. And what we can relate to is that feeling of, we break up with someone and suddenly, like, he's going out with your friend or whatever. And it's like, how long was this going on? Because you know how you feel? Stupid. You feel like a cuck. You feel like a blind fool. And we all feel like that when we get cheated on. And that's the thing. Even if it's not cheating, even if your friend taking up with your ex isn't technically cheating, we're over, it has that same effect. It's the feeling of, was I making decisions based on a reality that didn't exist? I'm a fool, and you have made the decisions that I make in the life I live foolish. Because, was everyone else in on this joke? Was everyone else in on this and I was the last to know? It truly is insult to injury. And so I think that's why we as society like have a big reaction to like Hunter Biden and Stevie Nicks and Ryan Dorsey like doing these things, because it's like we have all felt that feeling of like, what the fuck? Like, you two? Like that betrayal where I've already lost the guy, but I've got to lose my friend too, my sister, my cousin, my coworker, whoever it is. I have to watch this happen. We don't want to see our exes move on. You belong to me, that goes on forever, right? But for you to move on just at all, rude, to move on with someone close to me, there's a lot to unpack. But before we talk about that, because a lot of you guys were like, oh, talk about this as trauma bonding. This actually isn't what trauma bonding is. Trauma bonding is when you bond to someone who has hurt you. When you bond to a narcissist, it's like Stockholm syndrome. So like Stockholm syndrome is when like people who are kidnapped fall in love with their captors, you know, or they like trust them. And now they're like part of their family, or, you know, they're part of the cult. It's a coping mechanism, and they bond to people who have hurt them. It happens a lot with people with very low self-esteem. We've done videos on trauma bonding, but that's not what this is. This is trauma, bonding. You know, that this is both of those things, but this isn't the actual like psychological definition of trauma bonding. If you are experiencing something like this, like I'm a pop star, not a doctor, like go see a therapist and really try to unpack this. Because like I said, these feelings are in a way natural. Human beings, we like to act like we're so complex. When it comes right down to it, when the going gets tough, we have only a few ways of interpreting emotions, right? The ways of processing things that are too overwhelming to process. And grief comes out as like anger, right? Just that rage, self-destruction. I'm going to drink myself to death. And it comes out to latching on to people. You know what's weird? Do you know what's fucked up? Oh, this is gross. This is gross. A lot of times, like long lost, like parents and children or brothers and sisters, like she was adopted and we didn't meet until we were 20. You know what happens? They sleep together. They do. It happens like a lot. Why? Because it's such a heavy emotional payload. People don't know how to interpret it. And so they see someone, it's like, you're familiar to me. And I can't like process how you're familiar, and we have this connection, but it doesn't feel like family because we didn't grow up together. Must be something else. And it manifests that way. That is an extreme and ultra gross example. But when you kind of look at that pathology and then apply it to like the Ryan NAYA thing, Nickayla, sorry. It's like, okay, he sees her, he sees NAYA in her, but maybe she's missing the traits that NAYA had that made their marriage not work. NAYA was a handful, okay? I don't speak ill of the dead, but there's some stories out there, okay? Not that he wasn't. Takes two to tango, but, you know, maybe she's more compatible with him and familiar in that way. There's a lot. There's a lot to unpack. The human psyche is incredibly bizarre, and grief is bizarre as well. And when you put these two things together, it's like, what the fuck? So let's talk about what to do when, all right, maybe this isn't as an extreme example, but like I said, it's a feeling we felt, that betrayal, that shock, that foolishness, that feeling of almost being cheated on. And I've talked before about how my best friend throughout all of high school and all of college, someone I considered my sister, slept with my boyfriend. Like, not just my boyfriend, like my first love, the guy I lost my virginity to, who she saw the entire soap opera for literally 5 years. She saw it. She was right there. And like the second they were both in the same city together, both in LA together, and I was in New York, she fucked him. And I'm like, what? He is not irresistible, my friends. He is not irresistible. Short, mean, balding, great. And I remember saying, I was like, of all the men in Los Angeles, you had to have Jack. And she's beautiful. And like you had to have him. Why? Because it felt so personal. It felt so pointed and intentional. But I very quickly snapped into, okay, if you guys are in love, if you two are in love and that's what this is, I give you my blessing. Now listen, what does this say? What does this say? What does this say? Be kind, choose love. No, bitch, it says revenge, right? And people always ask me, they say like, does that mean something? I was like, yes, it means revenge. Try it and find out. Like it means revenge. I'm not a turn the other cheek kind of person, but I am a logical person. And I defaulted to the logic of, why should 3 people be unhappy? I've lost him. I've lost her, fuck her. She can fuck off and die. But why should I at the time, no, I take that back. I didn't think I'd lost her. Anyway. But I was like, you know what? Why should I stand in the way of this? I'm not going to be with him. I don't even want to be. But why should I get in the way of something? And why should 3 people be unhappy? All that's going to do is turn the resentment towards me. Even if, let's say I wanted him back, he's never going to want to get back with me because he's going to view me as this like mean obstacle that kept him from what he wanted. She's going to become resentful that I made her choose. And you know what? Most times people need a big dose of what they think they want. And I, yes, am logical, but I'm also pretty Machiavellian, right? I think a few steps ahead. So I was like, no, you guys go. You guys really do it. Spend a weekend around each other. Go on a vacation for a month. See if you don't murder one another, because I know you both. And I know that your personalities don't overlap. And I know that you actually don't really know Jack all that well. And if you did, you wouldn't like him. I know him really well, and I don't like him anymore. It's that Stevie Nicks thing. She realized she didn't know this dude, her friend's husband. Like, she knew him as an extension of her friend, right? And once you remove the friend, it's like, I only liked you because I liked what we had in common, which was my friend. And she's the thing I really like. I didn't really like you. I just liked that you were a memory keeper. You were a historian. I don't need to fuck the historian. I don't need to marry the historian. I just need to be able to keep those histories alive in a healthy, productive way and not think that this is that way, right? So what happened with my friend and my ex? He was the one who told me. She didn't tell me. And that is really, really what spelled the death of our friendship. Because I confronted her. I was like, did you have sex with Jack? And she didn't say, yes, I did, I'm so sorry, or yes, I did and we're in love, or yes, I did and it's because I feel some type of way about you because your life is taking off and mine is kind of stagnating, even though historically I was the golden child in high school and you were kind of the dorky friend. She didn't say any of that. I will always love you. I love you. I think she kind of denied it, but there wasn't any sort of like self-awareness or frankness or, okay, I've been caught, let's talk about it. There wasn't. There was from him. And I was just like, I told all my friends, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Because trust me, if you saw this dude, you'd be like, you torpedo friendship over that guy? Not hot. Not cool either. Oh, such an asshole. And my friends all said the same thing. This, on both sides, had to do with you, Shallon. She was trying to tear you down, like trying to inhabit your life because she's not feeling great about herself. Not even inhabit my life. She was trying to sleep with someone who knew her from her golden years, right? So she could kind of re-inhabit that time in her life where she was the big, bright, shining star of our town. Whereas, she moved on. It's like, things kind of, it's prom queen syndrome, right? You're a 10 in a small town. You go to LA. Welcome to being a 6. That's why people stay in their small towns. And he was doing it to fuck with me. The point is, sometimes it's not about you. Sometimes it truly is 2 people just falling in love. Sometimes it is about you. So let's unpack both of those scenarios. Let's unpack if it is about you. Fuck both those people. I mean, honestly, if you're dealing with a friend who this is her way of getting her self-esteem, her ego, her power, fuck her. Honestly, I don't give a shit if she's your sister. There's also a Golden Girls episode about that. Remember when Rose's sister came to town? Yeah, she boned everyone. Blanche's boyfriend, I remember. Ugh, Golden Girls, they just broke it all down. You don't need someone like that in your life. I don't care if she is blood relative to you. And yeah, blood's thicker than water, blah, blah, blah. Blood is not an excuse to treat someone like absolute trash. It's not. People prey on the elasticity of affection and family relationships, right? You push your mom farther than you're going to push your boss, right? Because he has no elasticity with you. It's like, get the fuck out of my office if you're going to act like that. Mom's not going to say, get the fuck out of my house. I'm disinheriting you. Not after a while, right? Siblings do that too. They can go for something, she'll forgive me. And these are like micro calculations going on in some people's mind. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they're narcissists and they don't care. Either way, You don't have to abide this in your life. Nothing comes before my peace of mind. Nothing. Not a family relationship, not a blood relation, not a wedding ring, nothing. I serve me first. If I ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, right? I'm not dialing myself down, putting myself on an emotional clearance rack, knocking down all of my emotional borders to keep other people happy, because the people I would have to do that for are the last people I should try to keep happy. They're people who don't have respect for me. They're people who do want to see me on a clearance rack so that they can feel like they're higher priced. No, that is nothing but emotional terrorism. I mean, right? Isn't that exactly how terrorists work? Coercion, threats, abuse, tearing you down, keeping you afraid? Well, I, like America herself, do not negotiate with terrorists. You want to act like that? You're out of my life. I don't care. I don't care how you know me. If you actually knew me, you wouldn't pull that shit. Because to know me is to love me. To know me is to respect me. And same with you too. If you think you know me, then you wouldn't act like that, because you'd have a modicum of respect for me. So it's interesting when people close to us default to that. But I'm your sister, I'm your cousin, I'm your best friend. You are none of those things, actually. You might be that in title only. But that relationship implies respect, love, boundaries, and you just demonstrated that none of those are present. So I don't care what you call yourself, you're an enemy, and you need to get out of my life. But let's say that shit just happens. People just fall in love. Ugh. Oh, this is what sucks, because I feel like, okay, hold on. I feel like I've been on both sides of this, right? If we're all being honest, there have probably been a time or two that we have nursed a bit of a crush on a friend's man. Oh, he's so cute. Oh, I wish I'd met him first. I wish he'd liked me and whatever. Or we've had a crush on a boyfriend's friends. This has happened to me. I'm going to err on the side of us not all being monsters and say that this happens because similar people run with similar people, right? It makes sense that you and your friend would be attracted to the same kind of guy, right? Probably, your hobbies are going to be the same. You both like to watch football, whatever it might be. If you're a lot like your friend, and we're always a lot like our friends, then we're going to be into kind of the same type of dudes, right? That makes sense. And this is the worst part. Maybe your friend is into like the tall, bald, ripped guys. You're into like the short emo kids. The package that these people come in might seem like, oh, no, we don't have the same type at all. But I bet you the emotional characteristics are very similar. Oh, he's very open and communicative. He's really funny. He's super like outgoing and political, stuff like that. And so it's natural that we develop those type of feelings. So I'm saying this because sometimes it happens that your friend and your ex are going to pair up. But still, fuck both of them. Fuck both of them. Honestly, fuck them. Sorry. Do you know what I demand from the people in my life? The chief trait. It's not intelligence. It's not wisdom. It's not ambition. It is loyalty. It is loyalty. If I'm your friend, your enemies are my enemies. That's it. Your enemies are my enemies. I don't need a PowerPoint presentation to convince me. You say ride, let's go. And if I don't have that back, who are you to me? You're a stranger. I don't know where your loyalties lie, right? I don't know, when push comes to shove, are you going to be on my side? Whether this is a road rage incident or this is my ex. And again, it goes back to how the fuck long has this been going on, right? If I see my friend and my ex pair up, I feel like a fool. And I also wonder, oh, was all the advice she was ever giving me completely designed to destroy me? Was there an enemy inside the gates this whole time? Yeah, no, wear that skirt. You don't look fat. Right? Keep calling him. He'll love it. How do I know? And if I can't trust the advice you give me as a friend, again, who are you to me? Who are you to me? You're a stranger. You're worse than a stranger, because at least strangers usually are neutral. That chick at the grocery store, she's not out to destroy me. She just wants to check out, buy her bananas, and go live her life, right? So if I ask her for something, she's going to shoot me straight. The enemy in my gates might not. And people pairing up, like I said, it could have a lot to do with you. Also, like I said, it's natural that we would have crushes on people that are in our friends' lives. But this is the line between man and monster, isn't it? Character, it's not how you feel. Character has nothing to do with how you feel in your heart. That's horseshit. Character has to do with decisions. Okay, I want to punch that girl in the face, being slow at Jiffy Lube and just not getting things done. Of course I want to, but manners maketh man. And I'm not going to do that because I'm a rational civil human being. I'm not an animal. Animals act out of instinct, and I'm not an animal. So just because I might fancy my ex's friends or my best friend's ex-boyfriend doesn't mean I'm going to go in like Bieber first, chasing him down the road. Like, I don't do that. We don't have to chase every single fucking instinct we have. And at some point in our lives, we have to make the grand calculation, right? You guys have submitted questions to me. It's like, I have a thing for my friend's ex, blah, blah, blah. And I always say the same thing to you. 10 years from now, who do you think is going to be in your life? It's not him. It's not him, sweetheart. If you think it is, that means he's the dude you're going to marry. And you're what, 15, 16, 25? He's probably not the guy you're going to marry. Because the guy you're going to marry would never date his ex's friend. He just wouldn't. Because he would be a healthy person. And he would know, I don't want to pit two women against each other. This is a whole other layer to this that could be at play. This dude might like to see that he's coming between two women. Look at the power I have. It's not enough to get a girl. I have to get a girl and I have to isolate her from everyone else. Who does that? Manipulators and abusers. It's the number one tactic. They isolate you first and foremost. And what better isolation is there than to steal you away from a friend group, create this huge schism, have you excommunicated, you're all by your goddamn self. You can't break up and go back to who? Your friends who you have purposely and consistently hurt to be with this motherfucker? And he's just sitting there like, excellent. My little puppet is under my spell more and more every day. It's never worth it. It just isn't worth it. It isn't worth it. So let's say your friend is trying this shit. Your friend is doing what my friend and my ex did. Go to her and tell her what you need to be okay with this. But first, you have to figure out what that actually is. And if what you need is to scream and rage at them for the rest of your life, just get out, cut them off, and move on, right? Anger is like this, it's like this never-ending scratch and sniff sticker. I don't know why this is the only example I can come up with, but you just are like, the more you scratch, the more you sniff. And if people let you keep going and just rage and rage and rage and rage, you're going to keep raging and raging and raging and raging. Like, we see this happening all over the place. We see it in our country right now. We see it in our friendships right now. We all have seen this, and it's not healthy and it's not productive. So you go to her, and maybe what you need is to know, like I said, when did this start? And this is the script. You say, hey, Erica, I understand that you want to date Jack and Jack wants to date you. It's hard for me to put into words how that hurts me because you saw the whole saga. You saw how he treated me in his dark days. And if you think he's going to treat you different, I got news for you. You're wrong. But okay, if you need to discover that for yourself, that hurts me and that makes me sad and makes me worried for you. Editor's note, privately, this is when you annex this person out of your life. Say, but why this hurts me so much is because it makes me wonder how long this was happening for, And I understand your impulse right now is to say, it just happened. It just came out of nowhere. Nobody planned this. I get that. I would want to say that too. But in order for me to accept this and move on with our friendship and ship you guys, I need you to come clean with me, okay? Because otherwise, I'm always going to be looking back at my relationship with him and with you and constantly mining it for red flags that I missed. And I don't want to do that. So if you really did start to have the hots for him when we were just together for a month, I need you to tell me that. Okay? I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to be mad. It will help me. It will help this scenario. And then you let that bitch talk. And you listen to what she says. Not only what she says, how she says it, how she packages these responses. If she packages this shit in a victim narrative, I don't know, he just came on to me and he just was like blowing up my DMs. Oh, you were a little victim. You and your little skanky, trashy vagina just couldn't help just go in and was all like, shut the bitch. If she packages this like, I had no control, I was just swept away. Red flag, red flag, red flag. She's trying to divorce herself from her own decisions. But if she shoots you straight and she's like, you know what? When I saw you guys at prom and the way he looked at you and, he was flirting with me also, like he was putting his hand on my back and like texting me funny things. And we do have a lot in common. And I started to have a crush on him, but I told myself, it's just a crush. It's fine. And then one thing led to another. And I've been really upset that Ryan dumped me. And he was just kind of this like guy giving me attention. And I wanted what you had. And I think that's because sometimes I'm jealous of you. If she's demonstrating some self-awareness, at least you have a starting point, right? You have a foundation on which to rebuild this friendship. But that's entirely up to her. Like I always say, so much of the time, the writing's on the wall. We just got to read it. And we don't want to because it's not a story we like, of course. But if we want to live happy and healthy, we have to look at the reality of people and their behaviors. And not even their behaviors. This is the summation. Their willingness for self-awareness. I'm not asking people in my life to be perfect. I'm not asking them to always do the right thing and never mess up and never hurt me. I'm just asking for self-awareness, right? I would rather my friend say, I'm having a really hard day. I'm in a terrible mood. I can't hear about your happy relationship because I'm so messed up about how mine is like spiraling. Okay, great. What I will not abide is my friend snapping at me. You're not even in a real relationship. You're in some bullshit college relationship. He doesn't even like you. Which is something a friend has said to me. And I cried. I was so upset I cried. Even though I knew she was coming from a place of hurt in her own relationship, it didn't matter. Like, her problems are now my problems, and now we got problems, right? It was really difficult. I want to see that self-awareness. We can work through that together. I can meet you where you are. But you want to turn that gun against me? No. Because again, now you're my enemy. Now you're my enemy. Now you're worse than a stranger to me. You're an enemy within the walls. And I don't have time for that. I want to know what you guys have to say about NAYA's little sister. You know what another element is? She's so much younger. He's 37. She's 25. I wonder, like, that's a pretty big age difference. And it's like, she was so young when him and NAYA, when they dated the first time, because they dated like years before they got married. Her marriage was a disaster. Remember how she slotted Ryan in for Big Sean when he dropped out? Yes, I know. It's like recast everybody, places. I mean, Nickayla was probably like 15 when they first dated. I mean, she probably had this like starry-eyed crush on him. And it's just, there's just a lot of elements. You know, like when you look up to your big sister, she's famous, she's beautiful, she's rich, you're like a gawky teen, even though Nickayla's probably always been beautiful. But, you know, no one feels beautiful when they're 15. Maybe there's an element of like revenge and inhabiting her sister's personality. I don't know. But it's a lot. It's a lot. I want to know what you guys have to say about this. Have you been on both sides of this? Have you dated your friend's ex? Have you had crushes on your ex-boyfriend's friends? Have you managed to make the switcheroo? If so, tell me. Very interesting. Have you watched a friend or a sibling or someone close to you take up with someone who was also very close to you? And how did it play out? Were you able to salvage the friendship or the romantic relationship? Or did you just have to bid them both farewell? For more, click like and subscribe. We got the podcast out tomorrow and more videos coming this week, including one on easy ways to figure out voting. Because I know voting is not always like linear. Like yeah, for the president, but measures and propositions, it can get a little hinky. So we're gonna do a video how to elucidate what the right vote is for you. We're also gonna be doing some videos on attraction and a whole bunch more. See you later, Shalligators.